You're about to listen to a BBC podcast, and trust me, you'll get there in a moment. But if you're a comedy fan, I'd really like to tell you a bit about what we do. I'm Julia McKenzie, and I commission comedy podcasts at the BBC. It's a bit of a dream job, really. Comedy is a fantastic, joyous thing to do because really you're making people laugh, making people's days a bit better, helping them process all manner of things. But, I also know that comedy is really subjective and everyone has different tastes. So we've got a huge range of comedy on offer, from satire to silly, shocking to soothing, profound to just general prattling about. So if you fancy a laugh, find your next comedy at BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast, bringing you all the latest news and analysis in less time than it takes Lewis Ferguson to finish his morning cappuccino. And the reason for that gag is because here, on Tuesday the 28th of November, I am in the Italian capital of Rome. It's Liam McLeod, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. Coming up today,
chinking himself away from Husay into the box for Kyogo!
What do Celtic need to do to get their first Champions League win of the campaign? Ahead of the do-or-die clash, we'll also find out how their opponents Lazio are looking.
Really, they're coming into this in worse shape than they have been all season.
And on the domestic front,
it can work both ways. I can't change it. That these are the fixtures that are coming up, but you'll be ready for St Mirren.
At the second time of asking, can Derek Adams get the first win of his third spell in charge of Ross County?
This is the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Well, thank you very much for listening. Remember to subscribe to the Scottish Football Podcast. We're with you every single day. And joining me here in Rome, the Eternal City, is James McFadden, who's been following Celtic's Champions League journey so far this season. James, how do you feel about Celtic's chances of not just getting a result tonight, but prolonging their European season into the spring?
Yeah, I think that Celtic have to improve again, certainly, more than the Atletico Madrid game in Madrid. But I think their performances before that, up to that point, have been pretty good. It's just getting results. So the game against Lazio, I thought they'd done enough to get. I know that they end up losing the game in the end, but I thought they'd done enough to get a win, created chances, and if they were a wee bit better defensively, then they could have got a win. So the kind of performance levels have been there. They have to get results. Clearly, there's 2 games left. If they lose tonight, then the European season is over. But I think if they believe they can go and get a result, then they have a chance of getting the result.
But it's good for them that they've still got an opportunity to not just prolong their European season, but to get into the last 16 of this competition, given they're 4 games in. They haven't won one yet.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable that they can still, they can still go into the last 16 of the Champions League, as you say, without having won a game yet. If they get a result tonight, I think that, obviously Madrid need to beat Feyenoord, and then it sets up a home game against Feyenoord, where if they win that, quite incredibly, they can go into the last 16.
Yeah, still in it, but it's out of their hands, as Fadi's saying there. They need Atletico Madrid to do the business against Feyenoord and Rotterdam this evening. Lots more to come from James shortly. We're also going to be hearing from Rome-based journalist Alasdair MacKenzie. But before that, let's get through today's headlines. As we're saying, Celtic must win against Lazio and Rome this evening if they are to keep alive their hopes of European football after Christmas. In the Premiership this evening, Ross County hosts St Mirren as the Paisley side aim to cut the gap on second place Rangers to just 3 points. It's all live on Sportsound. In the Championship, 11th placed managerless Arbroath begin life without Dick Campbell with a trip to Dunfermline tonight. Sticking with the second tier, and Raith Rovers have threatened to ban supporters who bring flares to their games. And 3 years since earning the last of our 103 caps, veteran Glasgow City defender Hayley Lauder has had a surprise recall to the Scottish women's national team for the upcoming Nations League doubleheader with Belgium and England.
The Scottish Football Podcast.
Well, that must be great for Hayley Lauder to get recalled to play for her country when she maybe thought those days were over. And I guess, James, as a player, you cherish every single cap. It doesn't matter when they come along. and a great opportunity for her to resume an international career at that stage of where she is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that once you've had in your mind, your last appearance, and once you're left out the squad for the first time, you think, well, maybe I'll get in the next time, but when it goes over a period of time, you probably give up on it. So to get back in, should be like our very first appearance again, I would imagine, with excitement, try to go and impress the manager and get into the team.
Indeed, all the best to her and the players. Let's turn our attention to the big one here in Rome. Lazio against Celtic. It's match day 5 in Champions League Group E. We're going to hear from the Celtic manager shortly, Brendan Rodgers. He's pretty excited about the match, going by what he said in the media conference last night here in Italy. Are you excited about the game itself?
It's a tough one because the result against Atletico Madrid. Now, you're saying that Celtic have a chance. They need to defend a whole lot better, and they need to take their chances when they get them. It's been the story of the season. It's been the story of Celtic.
And last season.
Well, yeah. I was going to say, Celtic in the Champions League over the last few seasons where chances come, they're not taken. Defensively, they can be better. So, I mean, it's a tough one. Celtic coming in off the back of for them, a disappointing draw. For me, an absolutely brilliant draw at Celtic Park for Motherwell. But they have to perform and they have to get a result. And this is where, they've set this season, when they've come into the games, it's almost like a barometer to see where they are. But now there's actual, I wouldn't say expectation, but there's an edge to the game because they really have to win. Before it was, if they don't win, this can happen and that can happen. If they don't win, then obviously, there's going to be some tough questions for Brendan to answer. So that pressure is there because they must win tonight to give any hope of staying in the Champions League for a start, but Europe after Christmas. So, yeah, there will be an edge and there probably will be more scrutiny after tonight's game if Celtic don't get a result. But I think they've got a chance of getting a victory here. Not many people will fancy them, but I'm not so sure, Lazio are that great a side that Celtic can't get a victory. The only issue is Celtic don't win away from home in the Champions League. In fact, they don't win very many games in the Champions League these days, but they do have a real chance of getting a result. And I keep saying it quite remarkably, keep their Champions League hopes alive.
Yep, full coverage to come on Sports Sound of Lazio against Celtic. Let's have a listen to what Brendan Rodgers has had to say ahead of the game here in Rome.
Yeah, I think it's for our own personal pride as a team. Clearly as a club, that's what we want to do. We know the challenges that we have at this level. And I also think the points total doesn't quite reflect the performance level that we've had. But we have 2 games now. We know what we need to do. I think what's important for us is making sure we have 11 men on the field. I think in their 2 away games we've been down to 9 men and 10 men. And at this level, it's a big ask.
Well, Brendan Rodgers there reckons the key to getting a result this evening is keeping 11 men on the pitch. And that has been an issue for them in the Champions League this season. I suppose that's crucial, particularly in these away games. Yeah,
well, you look at their only 2 away games so far. They've been down to 9 men and 10 men. 9 men they coped admirably. Sorry.
Put your teeth back in.
Yes. Against Feyenoord, and they've done really well to keep the score down to 2-0. But in Madrid, they were absolutely battered when they went down to 10 men. It did have an impact on the result, but they have to make sure they keep 11 men on the pitch. Of course they do, but as I've said previously, they have to take their chances and they have to be solid defensively. Because, as I said, the home game against Lazio, I thought they performed really well. They had chances to win the game, and in the end they lose a last-minute goal that means they'll lose the game and come away with nothing.
How do you see it going? Last time Celtic were here 4 years ago in the Europa League, they of course won. They went behind in that match and showed fabulous resilience and recovery to firstly get back on terms and then winning it late on with that Olivier Ntcham goal. Can you see a similar situation tonight? A similar game as that one?
I find it hard to envisage a similar approach because that's not the way that Brendan Rodgers' team play. It's not the way he wants them to play. Being solid defensively and organise, and not that he doesn't organise his team, but and play on the counter attack. They want to dominate the ball, they want to dominate possession, they want to create opportunities and try and overwhelm teams. So I think that Celtic could go in front and have to do a bit of defending in the game, obviously, because Lazio are still a good side. I think that this season they're not obviously hitting the heights as last season, but they're still a good side, and as they've shown at Celtic Park, they've got good players. But I think that Celtic will try and dominate the ball and try and, obviously take the game to Lazio. And I don't see a reason why not, because apart from the game in Madrid, Celtic have been very good against the other sides. So
even in Madrid they started pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that Griezmann scores the early goal, and the red card that was shown to Maida obviously has a huge impact on the match. But that apart, the first half performance was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, when you have the pace of Maida, then you're always going to have a chance.
Yeah.
The problem is they don't have the pace of Maida.
Or Palma tonight, because he's suspended as
well.
well.
So will it be Forrest and Yang? Mikey Johnson obviously come on at the weekend. So, but they don't have that real pace is the thing. But you're right, they did start well in that game, and they have played well in every game. So they have to be harder to beat, I would say. But I don't know how you go about that when your emphasis on keeping the ball and creating chances and possession football. But something that we need to see at some point tonight.
As far as Lazio are concerned, they are on a run just now. It's 2 wins in 6, 1 win in 4. Lost to Salernitana on Saturday. They're sitting 11th in Serie A. This isn't a side that is going hammer and tongs at the moment that Celtic are facing this evening, and it's a team that's, in all honesty, they're mid-table. Last season they finished runners-up, punching well above their weight last season when you consider some of the other clubs, the Milan clubs, and obviously Napoli ran away with the title, but they were above the Milan clubs, above Juventus, who've had their own issues in recent years. Let's find out a little bit more then about Lazio. Could this be a good time for Celtic to be playing them? We caught up with Rome-based Scottish journalist Alasdair MacKenzie to find out.
They've just come off their worst results of the season, which was losing to Salernitana, team that hadn't won a game all year and was bottom of the table. So really they're coming into this in worse shape than they have been all season. I mean, there's been far more calls for Stadi to leave recently than there has been before. This is all kind of on the back of them finishing second last season, which was their best finish for 20 odd years. But the Champions League has been their kind of saving grace this year, because they are in a very strong position to qualify. If they win against Celtic and Atletico beat Feyenoord, they'll be through with a game to spare, which would be an amazing result really for a team that's only in its second Champions League campaign in 15 years. So I think, considering the problems in Serie A and the problems with the team recently, the Champions League has taken even greater importance. I think they'll be reasonably confident going into this game, especially after the game in Glasgow. They didn't play particularly well in that match, and I don't think anybody pretended otherwise, but the way they managed to come back from behind to win a game away from home, which they very, very rarely manage to do in Europe. Lazio, like pretty much all the teams in this group, have a real edge when they're playing at home in Europe, and especially for this match because the clubs put on specific ticket deals for this game in order to get a sellout. So the atmosphere should be amazing, even in comparison to the other two home matches.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
To reach the last 16, they're looking at probably requiring a 2-goal victory in Rome this evening, and Atletico Madrid to prevent Feyenoord from winning that match. And then they've obviously got to beat Feyenoord on the final match day. They obviously would be pretty content, I think, with a third place finish and drop into the Europa League. But what they need to do, James, is win 2 Champions League games in a fortnight. They've only won 2 in a decade. Yeah. So how do you go about that?
Approach one at a time, obviously. There's enough to use this season in terms of performances. Brendan speaking about having 11 men on the pitch. Their away performances when they had 11v11 were decent. So they have to use that, but I totally agree with you. I'm not saying Celtic are going to go and win the 2 games and they'll win them well and qualify. There is this reality that they don't win games in the Champions League. So how do they go about winning 2 in a row? Well, they need to believe that, first of all, tonight, the game in front of them is they can win the game against Lazio. Look, I know they need the 2 goals, but win the game, because if they win the game and Atletico win, then it sets up a chance for them to get that 3rd spot next time out against Feyenoord. So if they get the victory tonight, okay, as unrealistic as it might be for them to qualify actually through the Champions League, they've got a chance of qualifying and to stay in Europe, which would be quite incredible considering they've not won a game yet.
Well, all the best to Celtic. We'll be in the Stadio Olimpico for that one. Lazio taking on the Scottish champions live on Sports Sounds, a 5:45 UK time kickoff. We've also got domestic action for you this evening. Ross County taking on St Mirren in Dingwall. Derek Adams back, of course, started with that goalless draw at home to Kilmarnock on Sunday. How do you see that one going? St Mirren obviously are a different beast at home than they are on the road.
Yeah, St Mirren obviously got a win at the weekend. I think their results and form's been not great, but they get back to winning ways against Livingston. Ross County obviously made a change with the manager and will be looking to get on some sort of positive run. I think that it'll be a tough game. I think it has to be. Derek Adams will have a little bit more time to work with the players and get his message across. And Steve Robinson will obviously have his players prepared to go and play against the Ross County side how they want to play, but not having the kind of the body of work for Derek Adams to actually see how they're going to play in terms of their shape and personnel. So it's an interesting one, but I think that, as you say, St Mirren at home are a different side to St Mirren away, and Ross County will believe they can get a victory.
And St Mirren win that, they go to within 3 points of Rangers, as I said at the start of the podcast. Rangers sitting in second, St Mirren third. I mean, you know Stephen Robinson well. How good a job is he doing there? I mean, It's been an unbelievable start to the season. You don't use the word unbelievable just willy-nilly. I mean, this has been an unbelievable start for St Mirren to a Premiership season. Yeah,
it has. And if you think that over the last few weeks, actually, the results haven't been great. They got a win at the weekend, which keeps them in that 3rd spot. And is that St Mirren, have they already went through their bad run and they're sitting 3rd in the table and, as you say, a chance to go close to Rangers? So yeah, he's done a great job. He's managed to keep the majority of his players fit. He's managing to keep a settled side, but I think that clearly after the European games, Aberdeen potentially will go on a run. I think Hearts are starting to find a bit of consistency, Hibs as well. So I think for St Mirren, look, the start of the season, the aim wouldn't have been to finish 3rd, but they have a realistic chance of doing it. But I think the teams that we expected to see fighting for it will improve and will bring a level of consistency that will put a bit of pressure on St Mirren. But what a start to the season they've had. Yeah, it's been great. And Ross County against St Mirren will follow our live coverage in Rome. That's a 7:45 kick-off at Victoria Park. And just finally, no Dick Campbell in the Arbroath dugout for the first time and goodness knows how many years it is now as they face Dunfermline this evening. Whoever replaces him, they've got pretty big shoes to fill, do they not? Yes, they do. And the assistant and the goalie coach, big shoes to fill. And the other coach has got big glasses to fill. Because, Dick Campbell done a remarkable job at Arbroath to the point where they're a part-time side in the Championship, and because I'm not getting results to push into the playoff, the manager has obviously decided to leave. I don't know the terms of his departure, but great character, done a remarkable job at Arbroath. They've got a very good side. I think he's assembled probably the best side that he's had in his time as a Arbroath manager. So it's a good job for someone to go into, because a lot of the work's been done there, so it's a very good job to go into. Right, James McFadden, thank you very much. We'll be back on Sports Sound this evening. We're off to
get a bowl of pasta or something. They're meant to be pretty good at that here. We'll be back with the team BBC Radio Scotland Extra this evening from 5. In the meantime, keep your emails coming to that new email address, scottishfootball@bbc.co.uk. That's scottishfootball@bbc.co.uk. And remember, you can get us whenever and wherever you get your podcasts. So if you haven't done so already, search for the Scottish Football Podcast and hit subscribe. Bye for now.
Just a quick word to say the Scotland Rugby Podcast is now available every Tuesday. Join me, Andy Burke and Tom English for everything you need to know about the world of Scottish rugby. Just head to BBC Sounds and subscribe to the Scotland Rugby Podcast.